That is a great annoyance to me. It's gone up to £1.50, the washing, and considering that most of these aren't working most of the time, I think it's a really bad thing. Thomas Hobbes. I don't know if you know Thomas Hobbes at all, probably don't. He was a 16th century sort of philosopher. He talked about how the life of man was nasty, brutish and short, and he's sort of seen as the father of realism, which is like one of the principal international relations. Basically about how the survival of the state is the most important thing, and that has to be the primary objective. You can't have morals in politics at all. It has to be. But I don't quite agree that actually he's the father of realism, because I think he actually is more actually the father of liberalism, because he always used to talk about how you have to take into account other people's views into your own, because obviously that was sort of a thing about the survival of the state. I'm sort of rambling on a bit now, and I like metal as well. I don't really like Led Zeppelin, and I like metal as well. I don't really like Led Zeppelin, and I like metal as well. I don't really like Led Zeppelin. I'm sort of rambling on a bit now. I'm sort of rambling on a bit now. I drink mostly. I'm sort of rambling on a bit now. I drink mostly. I'm sort of rambling on a bit now. I know my limits, but no, I like listening to obviously like rock music and that kind of thing. I particularly like sort of blues. I know my limits, but no, I like listening to obviously like rock music and that kind of thing. I particularly like Led Zeppelin. No, I mean yes. No, I mean so you got lots of people who are really like proficient in doing it, but then kind of like overuse it, you know, and then 5 minutes later they've like rejected them or like they're saying they're rubbish. There's like a good example is like the Manic Street Preachers, you know, crap and rubbish. I kind of think now you get a lot of the time you get people chasing, or particularly in the media, they're chasing crap and rubbish. And I suppose you could argue that sort of the way things are going at the moment, we're sort of reaching a peak of some particular like indie music, and it'll maybe crash, and maybe we're going back into more like some classic rock music and stuff like that. I mean, I really like the new Led Zeppelin. Like speed metal and that kind of thing, you know, and then 5 minutes later they crap and rubbish. Because I think that's the shame really nowadays, because you end up having like one really good like debut album, and then crap and rubbish, and kind of so forced to try and get another one out so quickly that of course then the quality drops. I remember once someone saying that they were asked once, I can't remember which band it was, like what should you do if you have an amazing debut album, and he went something sarcastically like make sure you've written your second one first, because he said that you spend like a couple of years sort of really toiling away with a load of songs and sort of really perfecting it, and then suddenly you get famous, you then don't have the opportunity to carry it on. And it's like success, isn't it? It's like say Guns N' Roses were crap and rubbish and Queens of the Stone Age, or Kings of the Stone Age, Queens of the Stone Age. Because obviously they're like quite, well, like enjoying themselves, but their quality of their music is crap and rubbish, and Queens of the Stone Age, or Kings of the Stone Age, Queens of the Stone Age. Crap and rubbish. Because apparently at one point in the recording studio he had like a chicken coop built so he could play his guitar in it, and then he had like a puppy that he just got, and apparently it like pooed in the studio, and he didn't want anyone to clear it up, so it sat there like stinking for like days and days and days. I think that was like the final straw, but I don't know if it's going to be any good or not. I mean, a lot of it's been like leaked on people, as it were. Because if you look back to say like the 50s when like TV and like TV news journalism started, it was all very differential. So like the actual sort of, you know, the politicians, and then particularly in the 60s when you had like the satire boom and you had things like various different scandals, they started to, you know, the actual journalists started to realise that actually their power was in exposing sort of corruption and the role of big business. And then I think by like the fall of the Berlin Wall, because the Berlin Wall fell and no one predicted it, a lot of I think reporters and news people suddenly realised, because they couldn't have this simple thing between good and evil, because for like 40 years you had like the Cold War between communism and capitalism. My message to the world, oh, when stuff is bullshit. And I like being a boy, I've actually got quite a good joke. A boy walks into a shop, and he has a sawed-off shotgun. He says to the lady shopkeeper, "Give me all of your ice cream." And she says, "Do you want crushed nuts?" He goes, "No." "Do you want your tits blown off?" Oh, when stuff is bullshit.